Hello, welcome back to the podcast. We're on episode 50. My first time hosting, so hopefully you might hear me a bit more, but it's going to be up to the other guys to carry this episode forward, and let's see how we get on. So before we start, let's have introductions and drinks. Who's going first?
I'll let you go first. I'd go because we always sort of steal a limelight from you. Crack on.
Go on, dude. Right, I'm completing the trilogy tonight. So I've had facts. I've had the facts 10%, and today I have got. If I can figure out where my camera is, the Facts Holiday Edition. So it's 5.6 quality strong beer. If I'm really honest, I cannot tell the difference between this and the original. But the original's pretty good. And I'm drinking it out of a TBR glass, which you may not recognise. So it's
nice.
I've been playing around with them to see what the design is. That one's fairly cheap to produce, but that's the good news. But I don't think I'm going to settle with that final design. We'll come up with something slightly better than that, but I'm pretty pleased with it.
Take a few of them for that big ass can as well, won't it?
It is. Yeah, you're right. That's the best thing about Facts. Litre cans.
Litre cans. Stated that.
It's the way forward.
Well, I couldn't pass up the opportunity on the half century and Andy's first to go with a classic Hoygarden. Could not pass that up. And just in case I run out of that, I have a Birra Moretti just on standby. So, and out of, as per normal with myself, official TBR merch. Not quite as updated as the merch that Adam has just shown, but TBR merch all the same. Looking forward to this. Looking forward to see where it's going. Can't wait to see what Andy's got in store for us.
Just set your targets a bit lower and we'll be all right.
What? My episode low or Gaz's episode low?
my episodes are very low. So
I'm on the Grimbergen Triple. I think that's the first podcast. I would like to say I'm sponsored by these, but I'm not. But it's a Delirium glass.
Yeah.
It's the only one I've got left of the copper lip on it, so I have to settle for this one.
You dishwash the rest of them, like you did with the TBR glass.
I've not let Amy near these. I put these on a higher shelf so she can't reach them.
Yeah.
All right. So, this episode's basically tying music in with memories. So, what throughout your life, obviously, there's key moments, and some songs might remember you of that. Whether it's like a time in high school, you hear a song, you're like, oh yeah, I remember that. Getting my head flushed down the toilet or something like that. I don't know. There's all sorts of moments, whether it's a wedding song or birthdays, kids being born. So I just thought we'd discuss that and see where we go. Yeah. So I did some research for this, the first time for a podcast as well. And it's actually quite interesting to see that a lot of music's used in treating people with like Alzheimer's and brain damaged people, because it helps to because you got two types of memory. One of them is like explicit and one's implicit. So one's like using all different parts of your brain, and they use like songs to try and like coax it all your brain to sort of work and kick in. So that's why like people with stroke victims and all that, who have only got they damage the left side of their brain, so they get them to play music and try and sing along to it, and just to try and get some memories out of it and see if it fixes the brain. Not the technical term, but it's quite interesting. There's a lot of charity organisations that do it. They go around like old people's homes and stuff like that, and just try that therapy out. So yeah, I mean, I don't know where to start. As it's mine, I suppose I'll start off with mine. One of my memories is probably high school, maybe 15, 16. There's a few like songs that came out that always remind me of the period of leaving school. And I was a dosser for like 3 months before joining the army. So it was always just like sat in my room like an emo kid, just listening to metal. So there's stuff like Stained and Limp Bizkit, Papa Roach. These sort of songs always just like take me back to sat in my room, like just playing games and chilling. Really, it's quite a good time. I don't know what sort of springs to your minds when you think back to your teenage years or anything like that. I'll open it up to anyone who wants to go first.
I mean, there was something that cropped up on sort of Facebook a while ago, and it talked about, and Bayou had to post sort of album covers that sort of either were influential to you or had songs that you liked. And I've got a list of those, and they were albums really. So from them, obviously, you can pick then a couple of songs from the albums that you associate. And I suppose the first one for me was Killer Queen, because I'm a massive Queen fan, and sort of growing up, I wasn't a massive, because I was out all the time, sort of sport and various clubs, I wasn't a massive sort of sit in my room and sort of listen to music as such. But growing up, I'm still a massive Queen fan. I love their music and stuff. So Killer Queen, I suppose for me was, I remember listening to that song and just the lyrics of it and thinking, like, wow, like who are they? It sounded pretty cool to me. So, and then obviously I got into Queen in quite a big way and sort of quite like their music and stuff. So, one of the, I suppose the first one for me really that sort of I remember listening to thinking, wow, that was a song that I really enjoyed, was probably Killer Queen for me. There's a couple of others I might talk about a bit later into that remind me of sort of my mum and stuff, but for me, just as actually I quite like that type of music. Yeah, Queen, really, Killer Queen for me.
Yeah, I love Queen. The main song for them is like Bohemian Rhapsody. I always think of because of Wayne's World.
Yeah. But it's weird because I can listen to Queen pretty much whenever. But my music taste is pretty eclectic, really. So like I can go anything from Queen to the Wonder Stuff to Elton John to Oasis to if I like the song. And this is, I suppose, what I have a bit of an issue with some people. So if I like the song, I like the song. I'm not one of these people that thinks, oh, actually, just because it's part of this genre, I don't like it. If it's a pop song and I like it, I'll be like, yeah, I like the song. Or there's some people like, oh, no, I hate it because it's a pop song. It's like, yeah, but you clearly like it. You're just not admitting it, sort of thing. So, but for me, yeah, sort of pretty eclectic taste, but Killer Queen is the first one. Definitely.
When you're talking about that, it just reminds me of, I used to love like We Are the Champions, which used to get played all the time with United winning cups and stuff. But sadly, in the past also.
I was going to say,
not been played for a very long time.
To be fair,
it's too dusty now for that record.
Absolutely.
What about yourself, Ad? Is it a similar style? Or?
Well, probably. I mean, obviously, you got to bear in mind, Gaz and I are the same age. You know, we were in the same year at school, so we probably grew up listening to similarist music. Although I'm pleased to say, not that similar to some of the stuff that Gaz was talking about there. I don't mind Queen. I'm not a huge Queen fan, but I know yourself. You know, I heard a lot of it at that age because obviously you were listening to it. Our buddy Dave as well. He's a big Queen fan.
He is. Yeah, he is. Yeah.
But for me, the first thing that really resonates music-wise would be Nick Kershaw. So, and you know, I've still got his albums on vinyl. I've got Human Racing and The Riddle. But Human Racing was the first one that really grabbed me. I had an old Sony Walkman back in the day, and I used to literally have that on with these great big orange headphones and plugged in. And everywhere I went, that album was played over and over and over. And to be fair, I listen to it now, and I still enjoy it. I think for me, like Gaz said, you know, if you like the song, you like the song. There's nothing wrong with if you're not a fan of the genre. You know, I am not a fan of pop music, but Nick Kershaw falls pretty firmly into that genre.
Smack bang in the middle of pop music, I would suggest.
It does, but lyrically, I always found him pretty smart, pretty clever, the stuff that he wrote about him. And obviously, with this being an episode about music that speaks to your heart, that takes you back to an area or a time of your life, for me, it's always the lyrics that spoke to me more than the music. And I could forgive some of the music that I didn't enjoy if the lyrics were pretty clever. And I always really enjoyed Nick Kershaw's lyrics.
Yeah, well, we're on about lyrics, and it sort of ties in a little bit with Queen. And I was going to mention it because it comes a lot later. And there was a song that Brian May wrote, and Freddie Mercury then subsequently recorded a version of it called "Too Much Love Will Kill You." And the first time that was played was that anybody had heard of it was at the Freddie Mercury tribute concert. But unbeknownst to obviously everybody other than the band members of Queen, Freddie had actually recorded a version of that song before he died. And when you hear the lyrics, everybody automatically assumes that actually Brian May wrote it about Freddie Mercury, and it goes on about too much love will kill you, if you can't make up your mind, sort of thing, torn between the love you've left behind, and all this sort of thing. And it talks about the fact that, and everybody assumed that it was Brian May writing a song about sort of Freddie Mercury, and he married, and then he came out as being sort of bisexual and then gay, and so on. And obviously he had sort of various sort of love affairs. But actually, when you sort of read into it a little bit more, Brian May actually wrote it about his first marriage and his now subsequent, because he married obviously Anita Dobson, EastEnders actress, still married I think now. But he wrote that song years ago. Nobody really heard it. He hadn't released it. Nobody really heard about it. It was about his past wife, his first wife, and his second wife. But everybody, because he played it, because the lyrics sat absolutely perfectly with effectively Freddie Mercury's life, he played it at the Freddie Mercury concert. And I remember thinking, wow, there was like 100,000 people out ever in the middle of Wembley concert, at Wembley Stadium. And nobody had heard this song before. And literally, you could hear a pin drop. It was like, oh my God. And he just come on and he said, I've wrote this song and I'm just going to play it for you. And literally everybody just went, so here's the backing it. He thought, oh my God, those lyrics are amazing. And actually, it wasn't sort of about Freddie. It was about Brian May, what he'd gone through. And then it was after the concert had aired, and basically Queen released that single, and Freddie Mercury was on lyrics, and you're like, oh my days. Like, at the time, everyone thought, oh my God, he's singing about himself and the sort of the problems that he'd had in his life and stuff. And just, you mentioned there, had the lyrics, those lyrics are like incredibly poignant in terms of if you're a massive Queen fan, even though it wasn't sort of written about Freddie Mercury, if you know what I mean, which is a bit weird. But yeah, those lyrics were like incredible. And as I say, to get somebody to record it effectively when everybody thinks that song is about them personally, it was like, wow, like really, really that hairs on the back of your neck sort of thing. So, so that was another one for me, Queen related sort of thing that I remember. So,
I can't imagine many other people singing it really either as well, because like the range that Freddie had and also like the emotion he puts into it.
Yeah.
I didn't realise that about that song.
Yeah, because
I'll be honest, I didn't even know Brian May wrote that one.
Yeah,
he wrote a lot of them, I think.
Is that right?
Yeah, Brian May. Yeah, he did. And to be fair, there was a couple of was it? I want to say "We Are the Champions" or something. But one of their anthems. So Roger Taylor wrote. I was going to say Roger Dalton there, but Roger Dalton, that's somebody completely different. So Roger Taylor wrote quite a few. John Deacon wrote quite a few, and I'm sure it's John Deacon that wrote one of the anthems. It's either like "We Will Rock You" or "We Are the Champions," or one of the real sort of stadium anthem sort of things. It was John Deacon that wrote them.
I bet it's quite heavy on bass then, that one.
Yeah, to be fair. But no, like I said, I didn't realise about the Brian May that he'd sort of written it about himself. Literally, as a Queen fan, everybody just assumed it was about Freddie Mercury, and it wasn't, which is
learn something every day.
There you go. So yeah,
I'd recommend watching that Bohemian Rhapsody film as well. That's probably I think they bend the story a little bit, but it's still good.
Do they share then what "Don't Stop Me Now" is about in the film?
I don't remember, but I know I'll take what Andy just said there. The timeline is slightly different, isn't it? In terms of in the film, the songs that they talk about releasing and then releasing, and they play around a little bit with the timing of the songs that are released and stuff. But it's definitely worth a watch. I mean, particularly as a Queen fan, if you like Queen, you like the music. Yeah, I thought it was a good one. And actually, Remy Malek, who plays Freddie, is brilliant. Like top notch. Very, very good.
Yeah, there we go. It's an interesting thing. Like that I think I try and when people ask me like what type of music I like, I'm pretty similar. Where it can be anything as long as it's you got to have something about it, whether it's a vocal, thing or musically or whatever. Going back to the pop reference as well, I think popular music used to just literally be anything that was popular, didn't it?
Yeah.
Whereas nowadays, I think it's just like it's just money making. Sort of, all these like these. I'm not going to mention the names; they don't deserve it. But all these pop bands that pop up and they're like manufactured, aren't they?
Be careful now, because I can remember before you joined us on the trips down to NFL, we would, or maybe you, no, it was the one that Sid was there with us. We're driving down in the car and like, guys, we CDs playing. And, it gets halfway through the song. I was like, guys, is this One Direction you're listening to? Yeah. It's the kids' music. Okay, it's kids' music in your car. I get that. Why are we listening to it?
And why are you singing along to it?
Exactly. You knew every word.
There's nothing wrong with the odd One Direction song. I like some of the odd One Direction. I listen to it all the time because Amy absolutely adores them. But I take your point though, Andy, about being, that they are manufactured and a lot, they are put together, aren't they? The bands are. We need somebody that looks like this, that sounds like that, and they are literally manufactured and put together. And you have to look at the spin-offs from, your things like your X Factor and things like that. Actually they will have a group now where they will literally put people together, and they've never met. They've never met before. They've never sung together. But it's like, right, you've got the right look. You've got the right look. Right, we're going to put it together. We're going to make a group.
A lot of it was like that though before these talent shows. You just never saw the process. I mean, the Spice Girls were put together in that way and were popular, if you want to call it that. Certainly not with me, not in this household. But
I think they set the trend for it though, didn't they? Those them and NSYNC and Boyzone and all that.
You got like Boyzone and Westlife and people. But I suppose Westlife did they enter some sort of talent show in Ireland or whatever? And they I think they were sort of put together a bit like Take That, back in the day. Whereas they're different than perhaps somebody like Blur, Oasis, who were a band and then became, very successful. Whereas Take That obviously became massively successful, but actually were manufactured in a way because they were put together. They went to auditions and they didn't, they weren't singing together as at the audition. They literally were put together. So I suppose you're right. I suppose it does date back. It does go back to back in the day, really. But I take your point into it seems to be more about actually how much money can you make as opposed to actually the music that you're making nowadays. Whereas years gone by, actually the music was pretty important. Whereas now it's all about image, I suppose, isn't it? But
awful.
Yeah.
Well, you won't get them doing like like a lot of bands do. They'll write hundreds of songs throughout the year, and they have like a process of going through each song and trying to attach it to different different members of the band. Will say, "Oh, I've got this riff. Can we get anything with it?" Yeah. You don't really get that with a man. Well, I'd say you won't. You don't hear of like hidden recordings and stuff like like going back to that Too Much Love Will Kill You.
Yeah.
Like, you won't get that with One Direction, in 10 years time or whatever, saying, they did this song. Sorry. No. Yeah.
But it's weird because going back to that, so there was R.E.M., who were another band that I listened to quite a bit because, their sort of range of music that they just created as a group was quite sort of diverse. And the piano melody from Night Swimming, if you know the song, actually that melody was written for a completely different R.E.M. song, and that goes back to what you're saying, Andy. It's like they had this melody in mind and they put some lyrics to it, and then they thought, well, actually I wonder whether those lyrics would work, and all of a sudden it sort of morphed into the song that you now associate and you now listen to, and it's called Night Swimming, and it's one of my favourite R.E.M. songs. But literally the piano melody, if that's the right phrase, wasn't originally set to those lyrics. I say, the band members arrived and said, "Oh, I've got this," and I can't remember the guy that played with it. "Oh, listen to this," and he basically sat down and played it, and then they were sort of saying, "Okay, well, what we've got these words, can we fit those into them?" sort of thing. But yeah, I think you're right. I think you don't sort of get that these days. That literally everything's just manufactured, and it's like, there you go, there it is. Go and sing it and make money. You know,
like 10 people writing the song, and then whatever group singing.
Yeah. But it's interesting to go back. I say Bernie Taupin and Elton John, because that's what they did. So Bernie Taupin would write the lyrics, and Elton John would write effectively the melodies and the music. And Elton John would write the music and then send them off to Bernie Taupin. And at the same time, Bernie Taupin sort of, the post were going, I've written these lyrics. Can you fit these songs? Can you write a melody to it? And literally, that was a two-way street sort of thing, wasn't it? But
I watched the visit Rocket Man, the Elton John film.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was great, but I thought it was interesting, like how they work together, sort of thing.
Yeah, and again, Aaron Edgerton that played Elton John was very good in it. However, I didn't feel as though that was as good as the Queen one. Having watched them both, I felt whether that's because I like some Elton John songs, but I wouldn't say I'm as big an Elton John fan as a Queen fan. So whether that influenced it or not, I don't know. But
I think Elton John was aimed towards like a musical. He's turned around saying his life is a musical, but it felt like this was written for a film and then stage shows. Doing a tour of theatres or whatever.
Yeah.
He was brilliant. He was excellent though in the rock opera Tommy. Richard, who was Roger Daltrey, you mentioned earlier.
A seamless link in there.
Yeah, I thought, tie the two together.
So, just talking then about all these different bands sort of took me back then to, like my dad used to live in a pub, he used to work in a pub and lived in it. So he used to stay there in Sandbach, the Ringer Bells. And, and it just reminded me then of, is it Blueberry Hill? I remember that song.
Fats Domino.
Fats Domino, yeah.
I used to wind all the regulars up that because he used to put it on all the time. There's that and like Meatloaf.
Meatloaf. Now, if Sid was on here now, he would be talking about Meatloaf because Sid back in the day loved Meatloaf.
He wouldn't. He'd be banging out a song right now.
He wouldn't be singing it. Yeah, he wouldn't be talking about it. He'd be singing it like a bat out of hell.
Paradise by the Dashboard, like that. That was always his opener.
It was.
It's like a 13-minute song, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Oh yeah, trust me. Yeah, you had time to go to the bar twice while he was on that one.
But he used to walk around the pub. He used to love his karaoke. He used to walk around the pub. Say, any females like, are you a good singer? Are you a good singer? Can you do Paradise? Can you do Paradise? You'll do. He'd be up there crooning on the mic. Big Graham Stew's karaoke back in the day.
Laser karaoke.
Laser karaoke. The art of entertainment. Back in the day. Brilliant.
What other classic? Do you guys ever do any karaoke?
Badly.
Yeah, very badly. Very badly.
Bryan Adams' Summer of '69 was my song. My very poor, bad karaoke song. That was a song he always used to sing and killed it every time. Literally every time.
I used to do Blaze of Glory.
Oh, wow.
Jovi, yeah.
That's a tough one, man.
Listen, it was tough to listen to when I sang.
I was going to say, it was hard to listen to, Andy.
I do not have a singing voice, I'm afraid to say. You'd be shocked to hear.
It's like 3 a.m. with just a whiskey in your hand and a cigar.
Just yelling. Could be music.
I've done a few karaoke's. I didn't like it. My mate was he loves singing. Not that he's any good at it either. So we used to do Bon Jovi as well. Actually, Living on a Prayer.
Oh, that's hard. That is.
Yeah.
That's hard. Because the thing is, you can go quite gravelly. It's sort of Johnny, so whatever, and you
no, you got to do the intro first. Once upon a time, not so long ago.
But then you get to Living on a Prayer. It's like you've got to go like massively high, and it's like, oh, we're halfway there.
I was going to say we could end up owing royalties on this one, but I don't think anybody's going to recognise the lyrics.
Oh no, brilliant! But yeah, no, back in the day, karaoke is brilliant. Absolutely. Well, I say I used to quite enjoy going and watching it stuff, and every now and then, if it's pretty dead, my old man would be like, "Guys, I haven't got any slips, and do you want to give us a song?" I was like, "No, Dad, not really. Really, I don't." "Oh, come on, guys, just do it." "No, I really don't." Terrible.
Was that your dad used to do it then, or?
Yeah, so literally like all the gear, like. And I mean, like thousands and thousands of pounds worth of gear.
when I bought the house off him, it was stored in the garage for a short while after. And I remember him texting me, I've got this guy who's interested. Is it all right if you just come around and show it to him? It's like, yeah, I'm in, just go for it, dude. So I left him to it. Popped out to see, do you want a cup of tea, Gray, or a beer, let's be honest.
Probably, I was going to say, well, actually, a beer.
And he's all set up there, and he's just firing it up in there. And they're literally, Big Gray, he is an entertainer. He was on it for he was on it for a solid 3-4 songs before this guy could say, "No, I'm not interested."
Honestly, dude, yeah. So he had like so he had obviously the monitors and the stands, and they literally would have these like laser discs, and you had this big machine that you sort of loaded the discs in, and then it would come up and it'd be like, right, track number whatever, and obviously the video would play with all the lyrics on it and stuff. But he had like usually 2-3 times a week, every week. Sorry, that
you couldn't go out on All Sage if you not have a Stu and Gray's karaoke night. That was the entertainment back in the day.
Literally back in the day, like everybody that you're going out, either it was a Thursday night at the Plough, or it might be a Tuesday night at wherever, and so literally they do it like 2 or 3 nights a week, and then you could hire them for sort of discos and various other parties and stuff, and they'd be like, oh, where are you this weekend? Oh, I've got a 40th birthday party in wherever, and they literally drive and sort of set up their gear but for years they did that. Absolute years they did it, and he loved it. Oh man, he proper loved it.
Natural at it, though, wasn't he? He was a natural at it.
Oh yeah, and to be fair, he's got a half decent singing voice. So pick the right song and he can sort of sound okay. But he proper used to think he was a proper like Tom Jones crooner. He'd give it all the mic and stuff. He'd be brilliant. He'd be dead funny back in the day. Sorry, Dad, if you ever listened to one of these, but yeah, it was brilliant.
Is that where Sid's got his music interest from, and your dad?
Well, yeah.
Because does he sing as well, Sid, or is he?
Badly. No, he sings.
Sid's got a decent singing voice.
He's got a decent singing voice. I think some of the lyrics on "Angry and Lonely" were a bit questionable.
Well, we have shared that song in this podcast. So if you actually go back and listen to Beans Does Tacos, I forget what episode number that is. Tagged at the end is that song. I forget why it's on that episode.
I don't know.
It doesn't showcase his ability to the
no. And like I say, back in the day, he'd do the odd bit of karaoke, and again, pick the right song, and get a couple of beers down and stuff, and he was all right, to be fair, Sid. He was. I do him a bit of a disservice. He could sort of hold the note. Certainly a lot better than I could. But yeah, no, it's just, God, that brings back memories. I know you're talking about like songs and stuff, but that brings back memories like of just going to the pub and doing karaoke. Man,
I
think you guys have to you have to show it off to me.
A TBR karaoke.
TBR karaoke. Yeah. Now there's another one for 2021.
So basically, you got Queen songs and John Bon Jovi songs. That's it. There, we're sorted.
You thought 2020 was bad. Here comes TBR karaoke. Yeah, I'll do the Barry White or something. But I won't do singing.
Oh, brilliant! Yeah, that would be that. So in the greatest. Vein of Adam always has these follow-up ideas for his podcasts. That's Andy's. It's like TBR does karaoke, brackets badly, close brackets.
Yeah, I'll host that one as well and not take part. You two
no,
sing
no.
off.
Oh no.
I struggle talking, let alone singing as well.
Oh no, brilliant.
Just sing an instrumental.
It's funny because, like, growing up, obviously I didn't really know I'd sort of lower down in school, but sort of up later on in school, and then obviously into sixth form. But I'd went through a proper indie sort of grungy phase. So you would have like, so I suppose people like in Spiral Carpets, that sort of indie sort of Manchester, Liverpool sort of scenes, The Farm and people like that sort of thing. So you definitely went through a sort of an indie. I
still love that music. I wouldn't say I had a particular type of music. Obviously, anybody knows me knows I love Morrissey. I love the Smiths. But yeah, it started with the likes of Spiral Carpets, with the likes of Happy Mondays, Stone Roses, people like that. That's the Lars, Northside. those are the sort of bands that I started listening to, because, like you said, we talked about earlier, like that pop music which was prevalent prior to that. These were all signed to sort of independent record labels, which is where the phrase indie came from, and they were allowed to do their own thing. Lyrically, they could say what they want. Musically, they could play more or less what they liked. And yeah, absolutely, that's the sort of music that I still enjoy to this day.
Yeah, and it is because when Andy you gave obviously the premise of the podcast, it's like music that reminds you of certain things, and that's why I made the comment earlier. So I remember a lot of the music that Ad was sort of into, just because we were geeks and stuff when we were growing up and stuff, and we'd spend a bit of time at each other's houses and stuff, and that type of music I always sort of associate with Ad, that sort of, like I said, that's indie sort of grungy sort of genre, and that sort of, I don't suppose it's going into college, was it? Maybe it's probably a bit, maybe a little bit. It was probably a little bit pre-college, was it? Maybe, I don't know.
I'd say in college I was listening to that kind of music as well, because I can remember you writing on your file something about something derogatory about the Spiral Carpets. Anyway,
right? Okay, yeah, probably, yeah. Yeah, some work.
Well, we never did that. Let's be honest.
Exactly, absolutely.
But yeah, no, those are the sort of bands now, and I've got, if you're looking at my vinyl collection now, those are the ones that I've kept. A lot of the ones I've palmed out, but stuff like Happy Mondays, Spiral Carpets. That, if you've never heard of Spiral Carpets, check out that album live. That is one of the best albums you will ever listen to in your life. It's unusual because it's quite heavily keyboard based. Clint Boone on the old keyboard, Tom Hingley on the vocals. Give it a listen. Absolutely fabulous. And just grab yourself a few beers or a whiskey and sit back and enjoy listening to that, because that takes me back. That does that kind of stuff.
No, really. So have you always been into sort of heavy metal, Andy? Have you always been into sort of heavy metal stuff, or is that, if you had to pick a genre, would that be yours then?
Not really, no. I think growing up, I listened to all sorts. Like my dad was into T-Rex, and then Meatloaf as well, and all sort of bands like that. Then my mum's into Motown and stuff, so
right,
he had all sorts of stuff. I probably wouldn't even say heavy metal's my thing now. It's probably more grunge is my top. Like Alice in Chains, Mudhoney, Soundgarden, just like like late 80s, 90s sort of. Yeah. That's that era sort of thing. Just love it. Still play all the albums now. Like, brings a little tear to my eye.
This is my question then. Are we getting old then? Are we getting old? Are we that out? Because I used to think, you know what I mean? This is the kind of music I like. I'm never going to be out of touch with music. Not like these old folks who are older than me. And then now I listen to music. Well, no, actually the music nowadays genuinely is awful.
Yeah.
The stuff that we listen to is good. Is that us getting old?
Well, this is it is.
Although, go on, Andy.
I know. This is why I wanted to do this podcast on this, not rather than just music we like, rather than the memories thing, because apparently a lot of your music taste is judged around your teens and early 20s, and apparently that's when you remember a lot of the music. Then after that, obviously you still remember songs and stuff like that, but apparently you don't take in as much musically after that. Right. So you're still like, you'll hear someone now and say, oh yeah, they're all right, or they're rubbish or whatever, but it doesn't tie as much to a particular memory, like what your teens, and whether it's the growth of you as a human. You're still physically growing, aren't you, until you're like 20. So whether it's part of that or not, I don't know. But yeah, that's why apparently you just like your teens better. We are the old people now saying, these kids nowadays, kids music nowadays.
Because when you think of it, like the songs that I've mentioned, they're all songs that I sort of relate back to memories of me being much, much, much younger. Like there's not a song that I can think of from a couple of years ago that think, oh, actually that resonates, that memory. All of the memories that on the songs go back to when I was much younger, and it would go back to when I was, sort of early teens, mid to late teens, and it's weird because obviously Amy, my daughter, so she's 15 and she obviously has some of her own music taste, One Direction, if you call it music. But when when she's in the car, and I've got some of my really eclectic music on. Actually, she will add some of my songs into her playlist, and then other mates are like, "Oh, what songs this? I haven't ever heard this." Oh, these are songs that my dad listens to and stuff. And she loves it. Now whether that's just she's saying that it's just want to hurt my feelings, and I don't know. But she's like, she genuinely says like, actually some of the songs that you listen to, she says I genuinely like the songs, because these days you've got like sort of like all your driller artists and stuff like that, and obviously I suppose Stormzy being that type of, just not for me. Just I don't get it. They just sound pretty angry to me, and I suppose that's the evolution of like rap. I suppose sort of precursor to that stuff. I don't know, but just not for me. Just
it's surprising that I like rap, but
yeah,
those 90s rap with like Ice Cube, NWA.
Yeah,
it just had that rawness to it. That I don't know. It is about something.
So would you be an Eminem fan then?
Yeah, I like some Eminem stuff. He's different, wasn't he? And he's very clever. He's fast rapping as well, but he's very, very clever.
Lyrically very clever as well. Stuff like Lose Yourself and Stan, I think are two of the best songs ever recorded.
Well, Stan is incredible, and
Genius. Genius.
Stan is and just a twist at the end when you're listening to Stan, and then Stan writes a letter to Eminem, and then Eminem at the end reads the letter out, and he's like, and he reads his reply, and he goes, "Damn, it was you," and you're like, bloody hell, sort of thing, because Eminem's then writing it saying like, "Oh, I heard about this dude that crashed his car," and then it's like he actually realizes it's him, sort of thing. You're like,
dude,
wow.
When we do the TBR karaoke, you're doing Stan. If you can do it that well, I think you can put more emotion into it, though.
But honestly, like I say, that I mean, he's very good. And I actually don't mind. Stan Lose Yourself with a couple of his more, I suppose, more well-known tracks. I think he can get a little bit. Again, I like most people, a little bit angry, a little bit darker. If you listen to, I couldn't listen to a whole album of it. It's funny because when we did the World Record, obviously you got Chris and Jordan, and they like Eminem, and they were like, "Get some Eminem on." And we were like, "Really? Do we have to, dude?" Yeah. He's like, "Don't mind the odd song." He's like, "Just play his whole album." It's like, yeah, I'm not so sure.
I'd argue some of the album stuff's better than the stuff he releases as well.
Yeah, possibly, and maybe that just because I haven't, heard it, song 1 to whatever on an album. Maybe I don't. Maybe I because I haven't heard it, I don't appreciate it as much as perhaps the songs that I have heard. I mean, if we're doing a music one, we need to get Vron, because Vron loves the music. So, and she won't come on the podcast and she won't speak, but she proper loves the music, and she's got quite an eclectic sort of taste as well. And if you sort of follow some of her sort of playlists on Spotify and stuff, it literally is like quite an eclectic sort of mix. But she loves the music. So, Vron, if you listen to this, let us know what we should have talked about, and actually which songs do you agree or disagree with us. The only other one I was going to mention was, again, in terms of a memory from younger, was my mum used to love ABBA, and that was, and obviously me growing up, my dad and mum, I suppose, they loved a bit of country and western as well, but old school country and western. But my mum loved ABBA, and I remember was it Gold, which was their, I think, was it their like greatest hits and stuff. Yeah. And the one song that she always just loves is "So Winner Takes It All." And again, actually, ironically, that's a song that was written by Benny or Bjorn, whichever one it was, about Agneta, and he wrote it about her, but the fact that he was married to her, but he actually was having an affair at the same time. And that there's one line in there that says, "Does she kiss you like I used to," or whatever. And you're just like, dude, you're pretty heartless, because actually you've written a song, you've made the lead singer sing it about you marrying her, but actually having an affair with somebody else, and you're getting her to sing that line, and you're like, dude, come on. That's pretty cruel. But mum used to love ABBA, so that song, whenever I hear it, reminds me of my mum. And it reminds me sort of growing up and stuff. And my mum used to listen to ABBA quite a lot. And then old country and western. My mum and dad, they used to proper love old school country and western. Sort of Dolly, Kenny Rogers, that sort of John Denver, all of those. So growing up, I used to listen to a lot of stuff That now, you think, oh my God, that's rubbish sort of thing. But actually growing up, you're like, because you don't know any different, do you? Your parents listen to music and you don't really know any different. You just think, okay, that's what they listen to. So, and it's only really, I'd say a bit later on in life, you start to get your own actually likes and dislikes sort of thing. So for me, country and western, growing up, loved it. And like I say, ABBA, just because it brought back memories of mum. And even when I hear it now, it just brings back memories of my mum, really. So that was the only other one really that I thought, in particular, stuff would like that me and Ad have done that just messing about as kids and stuff, larking about. I say kids, we were probably early 20s.
Some of it might have been last week.
But Guns N' Roses, so and actually it's probably had John. Well, maybe you, I suppose, more so Guns N' Roses really got me into listening to, and I'd never really, that wasn't a type of music I'd listened to, but now I actually think I'm a bit of a sort of fan and stuff.
Guns N' Roses, Appetite for Destruction. I have the album cover tattooed on my back.
Yeah. But it's weird because
not one of my better choices.
No, I'd have gone for Use Your Illusion 1 or 2 if I was honest. But
there's a lot of colouring in that. I'm not sure.
But it's weird because we had that argument. Well, it wasn't argument. We had that discussion. I don't know what episode it was. Was it a podcast? It might have been off podcast. And we were saying, was it Appetite for Destruction or was it Use Your Illusion? And if it's Use Your Illusion, was it 1 or 2? But yeah, I would never have put myself as listening to Guns N' Roses, but obviously, listening to mates sort of music and stuff, I sort of got into it, and I wouldn't say I'm a massive fan, but enough to know the songs and like the songs, if you're not. So yeah, but
Guns N' Roses is one of them bands where though you think, oh yeah, they're all right, but then you start listening to like a load of the songs, you're like, I like that, I like that,
yeah.
I like that, I like that, I like that. And it's like, does that mean our parents are right that new music is shit and their music is the best? Or because we've all literally, we're from different generations, but we've been referring to music that's from when we were born, maybe.
Yeah.
Feel like, I don't know, Kenny Rogers and all that, but
yeah, I
like the Beatles and stuff like that.
I love the Beatles.
The Beatles.
I wasn't a big fan. Probably I was quite closed-minded a few years back where I was like, I'm asked listen to this. Say a few, probably like 10 years, 10, 15 years or whatever. Then we did on the Stag Do, we did the tour, the Elvis. Yeah. And
do you remember that, Ad?
No, nothing. Nothing. Well, I just remember feeling very, very ill.
But yeah, the Beatles were good, weren't they? But I suppose
and Elvis as well.
Yeah, Beatles, Elvis, the Stones. I mean, I was never a massive Rolling Stones fan, but again, there's 2 or 3 songs that they do that you think, oh my God, they're absolute classics. And if it comes on, you'll sing along, you'll hum along. But I wasn't a massive Rolling Stones fan. But yeah, so weirdly, like I say, Beatles, Queen, ABBA, they were sort of 70s, early 80s. Obviously, I was born in 73, so maybe you're right, Andy. Maybe it was sort of, music that you sort of listen to maybe in your proper formative years that actually you sort of gravitate back to. I don't know. Maybe.
My 40th birthday, I went to see Rod Stewart, and that was the music that growing up as a kid, and I mean as a very small child, that was the music that was played in my house. I can still remember a cassette tape sat by the side of my mum and dad's bed of the Rod Stewart's greatest hits, and I can see it now sat there as a picture in my mind's eye. But yeah, I love Rod Stewart. I think that's it. Is it the sort of music I normally listen to? No, absolutely not. No. But I think it's the memories that are associated with it that make me enjoy that music.
Just I've just remembered we lived back when we lived in Church Lawton, and it was Sid, and he had in his front bedroom, and he used to play Lionel Richie over and over and over again.
You can't complain about that, though. You love Lionel, you love Phil Collins and all that kind of stuff.
I love that. Don't get me wrong, but he used to play. Was it Hello? Was it Hello?
Yeah. That's the one, yeah.
And he literally played it over and over, and it was like he basically used to put it on like an old record machine. It was an old sort of what would they be like a nut within 9-inch whatever they were, or 11-inch whatever they were, and literally put it on 770 and literally put the arm on and it literally just play and play and play sort of thing. You just like over and over again. Like the 15th time he'd heard it, like he's fallen asleep, hasn't he? He literally has, and like he'd be sparking. This song would just be playing. He'd be like, "Oh, Sid, turn it off." So that was a memory. But yeah, I love Phil Collins, dude. I back in the day, I loved Phil Collins.
Gee whiz.
I think Genesis did a few songs a little bit ahead of the time.
Few.
I can only think of State of Confusion for some reason, but it's been covered so many times. The State of Confusion or Land of Confusion?
Land of Confusion.
Land of Confusion.
I would burst into song with it now, but I won't. But yeah, I mean, to be fair, I quite like Billy Joel. My favourite song at the moment, I say at the moment, I love the song Piano Man. It's a brilliant song. I love it. I love the lyrics and actually going back to the lyrics, but there's two lines in it. And the first one is making love to his tonic and gin, which is the brilliant line. And then slightly later on in the song, it talks about a waitress and she's sort of serving these businessmen, and it says like the businessmen are drinking a glass they call loneliness, but it's better than drinking alone. And every time I just think, actually, you know what, these single businessmen, they just go to this bar and they just sit next to each other. They don't really know each other, but they share a drink, and it literally says they're sharing a drink they call loneliness, so it's better than drinking alone. And it's like, you know what, they just go there because they've got basically nothing better to do and stuff. But that lyric is brilliant, and that song is brilliant, and it is my favourite at the moment. I could play it over and over, and Billy Joel in that song was brilliant. Loved it, and still do love it now. Brilliant, could play it.
Can't think of too many Billy Joel songs, but I know who he is.
Don't try too hard.
You're not a Billy Joel fan?
No, I'm not. I'll give you that. That one's okay. But I think of Billy Joel. I think of Uptown Girl. Don't get me wrong. I love Christy Brinkley in the video, but yeah, that was it.
Was Christy Brinkley the one that? Yeah, it's only because was it Westlife or whatever covered it or whatever, and they did this terrible version of it. Like loads of people were like, "Oh, I remember. Oh, this song's brilliant." So, yeah, I remember the original. What? Has this been released before? I'm sorry, I've just looked on the TV. What's going on the TV? By the way, you watching that, dude? Sorry, if you're watching this on YouTube, I've just the darts is on. So, but yeah, so I don't know. Like, do you listen to? If there was an artist that you like, would you go and buy an album for one song, or would you have to have heard like a number of songs from that album to then go and buy it, or would you literally just buy an album for that one song?
I pre-order all Morrissey stuff. I don't have to hear it. I'll order it. I've got to have it all in my collection.
But how do you know you like it?
Well, I don't until it turns up.
So
you don't need to.
See,
then it turns out I do, so it's all good.
Winner.
Listen, I can listen to. Listen, he's done some songs which most of that some that I will skip past. Very, very few. But like Andy says about Eminem, some of the stuff that doesn't get released is the best stuff. Some of Morrissey's B-sides are some of his best work, because lyrically they're so clever, and they're written as poetry. When you mentioned something about Elton John at the start and the way he used to write with Bernie Taupin, the way that Morrissey and Marr used to write, it was literally Morrissey would write poems, and Johnny Marr would say, "I've come up with this excellent guitar riff," and they'd put the poetry to the music, and that was how the Smiths' music was written. It was done independently. The lyrics are written separate from the music and then made to work. And their music for me is the best ever written, bar none. And yeah, tweet me if you would disagree with that. I won't read it. I don't care. I don't care. Yeah,
you will get lots of tweets.
I think mostly in support of what I've just said.
Well, tying in with like Phil Collins and Peter Gabriel and all them, like the Smiths are actually probably trendsetters in the sense that some of their songs probably stemmed a lot of bands that we see now as well.
You look at a lot of bands and they, who they cite as inspiration, Morrissey and the Smiths, for an awful lot of the good ones.
That's just in your own mind, dude.
No, some of the terrible bands will cite them as well. But it's all well and good wanting to be your idols. But if you can't just emulate it. You need to be inspired by it, and that's the thing. The music that Morrissey grew up listening to. Interestingly enough, the music that influenced him was the music of his mother, and that old Motown and those old classic songs that he used to listen to. And musically, that's what inspired him. But his lyrics are very, very different because they were written as poetry. And there is a book actually which is called the Mozzopedia, which I do own, which is a description of what all of his songs are all about, because they're not easy always to discern. But that's the clever thing about it. You can listen to his music and you can relate it to something in your life and your feelings and your emotions. And that's what I love about it. You can personalize it. The lyrics are very, very clever.
But is that not just Morrissey there? Does that not go back to what Andy was saying about, I suppose, memories, and you could listen to most songs and pick out bits or lyrics of most songs and go, well, actually, that reminds me of that, and that reminds me of that.
No, I'm not saying reminds me of something, but actually speaks to you. That actually speaks to you. That actually speaks to your emotions and your feelings and your thoughts and how you're feeling at that moment in time. Okay. And actually, if you've ever felt disenfranchised or disenchanted with life, a lot of his lyrics can actually sort of buy into that, and you think, actually, I'm not alone because this is how this guy feels, and he's singing about it.
Okay. Yeah, I'll take that. I don't agree with you, but I'll take that.
I'm very much on that trend in the sense that I say, like, if I'm going to walk down the street or if I'm going to walk dog on my own, headphones are on, I'm going to be playing some random crap. I say crap, it's good music, but it'll be something random, but it ties into your emotions as well. So if I'm at the gym, for example, I want to play something with a big beat. So I'll turn off my Chris Christopherson and put something like some metal on.
So you go from Chris Christopherson to Linkin Park, like literally the space like one song. Yeah. So Chris Christopherson as you're walking into the gym, and then as you start working out, it's completely changed.
Yeah, it has to be, because you need to get that adrenaline going, that that lift you up sort of mood.
Yeah, but yeah,
I'll take your word for it.
No, but you're absolutely right in terms of you will get songs that and you will get different genres that fit, I suppose, different emotions, and you've got your typical easy listening, and then you've got like your driving songs, then you've got your workout songs, and so you have got different songs that have different beats that then relate, I suppose, to different emotions and different activities and whatever it is, and I suppose within that you'll have all your favourites of each of those different types of sort of song genres, whatever it may be. I don't think okay, so let me turn this around and flick it back onto you then, Andy. Is there any particular genre of music that you generally and genuinely think, I actually just can't listen to that? It's absolutely, I just can't do it.
I'd probably say, I don't know what genre it is, but it's mumble rappers or people like Cardi B and all them. I don't know what style it is. It's still rap, but they just talk about random shit, and it's not like a well-written song. It's just like Cardi B's like WAP, like something about a pussy or something like that. It's like, how's this a song? It's like ramming it in your face.
Yeah.
And mumble rappers, you got like, is it Gucci Gang? Someone repeats that, say Gucci Mane, that's it. He sings that same bit about 50 times in a song. I'm not even going to sing it if it irritates me. But it's just like, there's no thought into it. And this whole movement of mumble rappers, and people love it. And these people are multimillionaires for basically like mumbling more than I do. Just going, like, it's classed as rap. You know what I mean? That I can't listen to. I can't stand it. It turns my stomach more than what One Direction would do.
Wow!
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 I'd listen
to that's your sign off.
I'd listen to the Peppa Pig soundtrack more than some of these mumble rappers. Like.
I'd go on. What about you then? Is anything?
Same as Andy there, to be honest with you. That kind of music I cannot listen to. I don't even consider it music. I don't know. Yeah, and the other dance music. I've never been into these.
Dude, back in the day, though, you got some proper old school dance tracks back in the day.
I'm not talking about urban cookie collectives, the key, the secret. I'm not talking about that kind of stuff. I'm talking about this stuff which is just like a drum and bass.
Drum and bass, yeah.
What is the point? What do you get from that?
When they redo a song, and they've done Bryan Adams, haven't they? I can't remember what song it was, but they put this horrible beat to it, and they'll get like a female singer who's probably a 4 out of 10 voice wise.
Yeah,
they get her singing it.
Put a 10 out of 10 on looks. No,
exactly. Yeah. But it's like, and yeah, that's sort of dance music I hate. But what I do like actually is I also like rock. A lot of bands I like have mixed up like electronica and a bit of dance. So Linkin Park, for example, started off as rap and rock. And then they ended off like, say, 2015 era was all like is dance music mixed in, so there's all the synthesizers and stuff like that mixed in with guitars, and that sort of stuff's good. But yeah, going back to Adzo, Tokumi, can you remember that song? And Tokumi,
yeah,
Castles in the Sky, that sort of.
What is that about?
It was Ian Van. Was it Ian
I
Van?
know I sound old saying that, but bloody hell.
But what about something like Scooter and people like that? Proper just like go in the club and you got these people that just
in clubs.
Was Scooter one of the Muppets?
That's the Scooter that you know.
Yeah.
And there's a target audience for you.
German guy.
Dude, I've got a feeling actually a lot of people who are a lot younger than this might be saying, Scooter, what the hell's he on about?
was it the illogical song or whatever from Scooter?
Yeah, I know a few of them. Yeah. My mates used to play it all the time.
Yeah, there you go. See, so I suppose if you're in the club and you're in the mood and stuff, and are there any lyrics to that? I didn't know there were any lyrics to that, but it was Eiffel 65, 55, and then I'm blue, whatever. Like, what's all that about? I mean,
I sing that to Amy occasionally.
There's no lyrics to that. There's no meaning to that song. It's literally just like the same beat, repeat like over and over and over and over again. And it's just like, really?
They write a verse and a chorus and copy and paste it.
Yeah, that's it. Literally one verse, one chorus, and then just play it over and over again. Like 7 or 8. Yeah.
People who take ecstasy will buy it, though. That's the good news.
A lot of grunge music was written about drugs while they're on drugs, but it's more of the hard stuff like heroin and stuff.
Yeah, them boys weren't playing
proper stuff.
Tell them boys,
real men.
What yourself, then, Gaz? Got to be
just like I don't get the sort of drillers. Currently, I don't get why just the gang music about turf wars and I'm gonna sort of stab you, shoot you, whatever. They just come across as being just very angry individuals, and I don't.
Not in gangs either. A lot of them,
a
lot of British ones. Are like mentioned him earlier. I've forgotten his name now. There's Professor Green I keep thinking of, and they're all like, oh yeah, I was in a gang. It's like, no, you weren't. You're just some like, he's quite a well-off kid from what I've heard. But singing about
he was in the All Sage Bong Squad, which is a genuine gang. Apparently,
apparently, yeah, and maybe still is. But yeah, so sort of drillers and stuff. I'm not a massive sort of grime fan, really. Massively sort of heavy metal. I'm not a massive heavy like traditional sort of heavy metal. I'm not a massive fan of that. Your soft metal, straight rock metal, I don't mind a bit, but you proper sort of heavy metal stuff, not for me.
I think a lot of it you have to find gateway band. So I never liked screamy music until I found a band that mixes screaming and like melodic singing as well.
Yeah,
and you start liking that. And then they'll have a song that's quite heavy. It's like, oh, I quite like that. And then you find another band that's just screaming in your ear. It's like, oh, I quite like that, actually. So you have to find that little gradient and the gateway band I call. But I've got Amy into that sort of stuff now. It's working well.
Yeah, I couldn't do that. To be fair, back in the day, I couldn't ever really imagine me listening to proper indie stuff. But then, like I say, from sort of obviously getting mates with Ad and then listening to the music through Ad, I sort of have started to listen to quite stuff that. But yeah, the heavy metal, so like it was like Anthrax, bands like that are proper, just like very
thrash metal, where it's all like
yeah,
very tinny drums, like
yeah. So bands like that, nah. I don't even think I could sort of stomach someone saying, "Oh, listen to this, it's really good," and then I just genuinely don't think I could listen to it. I could probably listen to Eiffel 65 more than that, you know.
Yeah, listen to it while you're having a game of darts. That's nice, relaxing throw.
Yeah.
I think you got to be in the right mind frame for a lot of the heavy stuff, like at the gym or driving. I quite like play dead loud. It's got to be loud as well.
Oh no,
that's the secret to it.
Yeah.
I mate Clive, he loves his heavier stuff than what I do, and he will play a song until it finishes before getting out of his car, and then, like his missus, my cousin, would be like, "I ain't getting out of the car." And he's there like full blast, you can hear it outside. His whole car's shaking. He's like just rocking. Like, yes, he loves it.
Yeah, no, not for me. I get it if you work, if you go to the gym and you're working out and you want that beat or you want that sort of loud volume sort of thing, but yeah, I don't think I could listen to that, if I'm honest. Not for me.
So that's somewhat for next year then. We're going to hotbox
2021 TBR.
And that ties us in nicely to the hour mark, near enough.
Yeah.
So,
do you all want to say goodbyes?
Loved it, Andy. Brilliant. Good laugh, quite a light-hearted sort of episode, which is great. Just reminiscing about songs and memories and stuff. So yeah, loved it. Look forward to the next one that you host. Hopefully it won't be another 50 before you do so. But yeah, no, loved it. Really good. So that's me out. See you next time, guys.
Yeah, I just want to use my goodbye just to give a quick shout out to somebody called Bethany on Twitter, who's produced a Morrissey fanzine called Knockabout World. Now, honestly, check it out if you're on Twitter at Knockabout. First issue did 100 runs of it. I've got one on the way to here. I was hoping to be able to show it on the video podcast version, but it didn't arrive in time, unfortunately. But yeah, check it out. By all accounts, the stuff I've read from people who've received it is absolutely fantastic. So yeah, I'll just sign out by saying, listen to Morrissey, listen to Smith. It will change your life.
You would have bought that anyway.
For the better. Yeah, I would have.
Well, there you go, episode 50, my first one, possibly the last one, until episode 100. Peace out.